Hello everyone, so welcome back to this garden store utility garage garden space utility space garden store that I'm doing. Finally the roof has turned up, as I said in my little update video. So the first thing that I've got to do is mark out the plates. This roof is pitching up this way and back down that way. So what I've done is marked out my 600 centres. You can just see here's the marks on the plate. They're at every 600. And then what I've done, this is the bracing, the full-born bracing that braces the roof together to keep the trusses at the same spacing apart. All I basically do, there's 5 braces goes in each part of the truss where the structural members join to each other. And all I've done is laid 5 of those bracings on top, pushed it slightly back from my mark on the plate, and then I was able to just square straight up, and I put a little tick which indicates which side the truss goes. So I've done that all the way along. You'll notice here that there's a join. I don't allow my braces to go 2 trusses past, which is what you're supposed to do for them to lap. What I basically do is join them on one truss, and then what I'll do is cut a piece of 4x1 to brace 2 each side, if that makes sense. I just find it's easier, and it keeps the braces closer to the sort of connecting points where they connect in the truss. So they're all marked out now. So the next job we've got to do is move those to one side and get the trusses, which are down under that tree somewhere, and start putting them up. So you can see now that we've got all the trusses stood on. They're all sort of temporarily on. They're a little bit wobbly, but there's not much wind today, so I won't have to worry too much about that. I've just put a piece of batten temporarily, a bit of bracing temporarily across the top. Now what we'll do is get the battens that I marked out earlier on the plate, and we put them in. There's 5 on this end. They go where each of these fink elements meet the rafter and the bottom cord. So there's what we've got here: 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I'll slide all those in and get those nailed up with the nail gun, and then that'll start to get more and more solid with each nail that I put in. So that's all of these braces nailed in now. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all in. So the trusses are all spaced correctly now. So the next thing we've got to do, because this is now, it's quite wobbly, as you can see they're moving. So what we've got to do now is put some diagonal bracing in, and that really stiffens the whole thing up. So we'll get that, we'll put a piece of bracing across the top just temporarily, put a level on the end, tack it so it's upright, and then we can put the proper diagonal bracing in. That is all of that roof on and braced up. So I didn't show too many details of doing it, but really just trying to crack on. So I've got diagonal bracing is in, and all the sort of lateral, longitudinal bracing, I can't remember which it's called, but the main bracing is in as well. I'll just explain what I've done on the end here. Now normally this end truss would be set sort of 50mm inside the wall, But what I've done in this instance, again, just because of what this is really just a sort of glorified garden store, what I've done is pulled this truss so it's flush with the outside edge of the wall, and then what I'll do is probably just cut some studs in line with the lower studs into the truss there, and just carry on my featherboarding all the way up. It's not common practice, but it's only a small gable as well, so it doesn't have to be sort of fantastically strong. I think with the cost of timber at the minute, and again, bear in mind this is just a sort of garden store really, I think had I put that truss on the inside where it should be, I think I've got to buy a load more timber to build a gable end on there, which I just don't think is necessary in this instance. But again, this is a garden store, so that's all that roof on. Now what we're going to do is put a 4x2 plate on top of these triples, and then we can set out and start to put this roof on here. So I just thought I'd show you, I put an extra set of diagonal braces in at ceiling cord level on this, purely because it's timber frame, and it's just going to make that, if you imagine the ceiling cord as one sort of flat plane, it's now got diagonal braces on it, so it's super stiff, so that when we take these temporary braces off, you know, it'll stay nice and rigid. What I've done is, where this diagonal brace intersects with my longitudinal brace, what I've done is laid it over the top, put a pencil mark down each side and cut through it so they're all in the same plane. And what I'll do afterwards now is just put some bracing on top over that to just sort of reconnect these bits of bracing together and stiffen it all up. So it's just better that these are all on the ceiling cord at the right level rather than sort of humping up and over that other 4x1. So that is it. I know I said it last time, but that's it for this bit of the roof. I'm going to have some lunch now, and we can have a look, as I said, at getting on with the plates and getting ready for this roof. So we're just starting to prepare this smaller section of roof. Sorry if the video seems like it's all over the place today. I'm not really feeling it, to be fair, but don't think I'm feeling like I'm running on all cylinders, but you know, we've got to keep you know, soldiering on. So what I've got to do, this main roof's on, as I said. So we've got this triple here now, and what I've done, mustn't forget obviously, was I've beefed up with some studs. I can't even see what I'm pointing at. Beefed up with some studs under there, obviously, because that's taking all of the load of this little roof here. So they're in first, so those triples are nicely supported. What we've got to do next is bolt these together. I haven't got the bolts here actually, so we're just going to scrape enough together just to bolt it and sandwich it through this bit of oak. This is the tongue that I left on that oak, if you remember, so I'm just going to bolt those through there. That'll make that nice and strong. When I'm going to fix a 4x2 plate on the top of here now, which brings the plate level up to the same as the main roof, and what I'll do just temporarily is just fix it to this outside. I'll nail it down to this outside 9x2 here, and then when we bolt all these together, I'll then fix it down into that one, straddle it across, but it just means we can get the roof on. When I'm going to drill these ready for the bolts to go in, you'll see that there's a gap in between them. So what I'm going to do is use my big Bessie clamp. It's over there, I think somewhere. What I'll do when I drill these is clamp them all tight together, because if you don't, what tends to happen is all of the shavings from your holes tend to go in between the wood, and then when you go to bolt it up, you know, they hold them off. So I just make sure that's clamped up nice and tight when I drill it, and then they will all sandwich together nicely. You'll notice here that we've got a lovely scaffold all the way around the main roof, but unfortunately it wasn't scaffolded correctly all the way around this smaller roof. So what I've had to do is alter this scaffold. You know, it's not ideal, and you know, don't ever alter scaffold, especially if you're on a big site. I mean, you'll get absolutely slaughtered. Apart from the fact it's dangerous, obviously I'm doing this, kind of doing it at my own risk really. So you know, I'm fairly steady on my feet, but again, not ideal, but you know, better than doing it off bandstands. That took a bit of effort. I think my drill bit must be a bit blunt. Should go in easier than that. Right, a couple of penny washers on each end. get the impact gun to do those up. I love this. More and more I use this, the more and more I'm glad I bought it, and I've got these long reach sockets as well, so it makes this kind of stuff really easy. I know these bolts are a little bit long, but it makes an easy job putting those in. Boom, look at that. Woohoo! Beats using the old adjustable spanner. Right, so that's both these wall plates fixed, and they're all, now if we look here, they're all to the right height of the main roof. So what I can do now is mark out both these plates, mark out some bracing as I did earlier, and then we can get these last little trusses up. Let's roll. So those were, whoa. So those were an absolute treat, absolute baby trusses. Look at that, don't get those like those every day. So we've just stood those on, and you'll notice I haven't put any temporary bracing on because there's no wind and they're so small, and just skewing those temporary nails in the side is enough to hold them. And what I'll do now is put the main bracing through, get them nailed up, put a bit of diagonal on, and that's that roof done as well. So there we go, the main roof is on, and also the, hang on, it's got to be a, watch what I'm doing. Yeah, main roof is on, which is really cool, super quick. I know a couple of people sort of said to me in the comments, why don't I do it hand cut? But to be brutally honest, I know I had to wait 8 to 10 weeks for this, but this whole roof was £1,300, £1,300, and I don't think I could have bought the timber to hand cut it for that, and then I'd have had a lot more than, you know, one day to put it all up. So you know, the beauty with trusses is that they do go up quite quick, and they use a lot less timber to make them. The small roof is up as well, so the next job I've got to do is cut a ridge board, lay boards in there, and put some jack rafters in there, knob those valleys, and then I'm going to be looking at boarding these ends. What I'm going to do, I think as I said, I know I said about this truss being on the outside, it's not something you normally do, but I've done it in this instance just because it's a small gable. What I'm going to do is level up these studs down here, and I'll just level them up, and where they come on these intermediate truss sections, I shall just cut round them and fix them in, and that will give me my continuation of my 600 centres all the way up, put the membrane on, and then board it. I know I did get a few comments on some of the other videos as to why there wasn't an air gap between the back of the boarding and the membrane. The reason is this is just an open sort of structure. It's not going to be boarded in, it's not got any insulation in it, and ultimately anyone who knows about this feather edge boarding, it's also known as barn cladding, and I'm sure you've all heard the expression, as drafty as a barn, or were you born in a barn if you leave the door open. This does open up, and there's plenty of air movement behind it, so it's not something I'm really worried about there. It's mostly really putting it on actually to keep the draft out. It does stop a lot of draft coming through this membrane, so not worried at all about any sort of moisture issues there. So yeah, as I said, I felt a little bit grumpy today, so I don't know if that's come across in the video. Sorry if it has. It's the end of the day today. Tomorrow's a new day. Let's see if I can turn that frown upside down. Thanks for watching.